So you want to take better motorcycle photos? Well, here are 5 tips or 5 things you can do to instantly improve your motorcycle photography. So first off is to clean the motorcycle. Now, yes, I know it sounds obvious, but you would be kind of surprised by, as well in car photography, how many people post photos of their dirty cars. You gotta understand that it really ruins the aesthetic if you're going to go off-roading, or if you're on a dirt bike or something like that, then it makes complete sense. Otherwise, I definitely suggest before you go out to take any photos of your motorcycle, then 100% go and get a wash. But when you do get a wash, if you're going to take it to like an actual car wash or motorcycle wash, don't put any wax or polish on it, because paint is like a giant mirror. So the shinier and more reflective the paint is, or in other words, the cleaner it is, it's going to be a lot harder to deal with reflections and glare and all that. So always go and clean your bike unless it's part of the aesthetic or part of the setting, like off-roading. The second tip is location. A lot of people really underestimate the power of having a good location that fits the motorcycle. In photography in general, like just having a good location instantly makes your photos look better. Even if you're shooting at f1.4 or f1.8 and you can't see the background, it still plays a bigger role than you might expect. First of all, you want to pick a location that actually matches. For example, if you're having a dirt bike or shooting a dirt bike, maybe an adventure bike, then you kind of want to go for an off-road in the forest kind of vibe, or for an adventure bike, maybe some scenic views in the mountains or whatnot. If you have a sports bike, maybe some kind of windy roads or a track, maybe a little bit more urban setting if you have a naked bike. If you have a cruiser, then maybe some nice rolling shots on a big open freeway or a highway. So it's very important that you make sure you're picking the right locations for a motorcycle. You're not going to shoot a super sport on a dirt footpath or something like that in the middle of the jungle. Another thing to look out for when you're picking a location is making sure that you have a clean background, because motorcycles have a whole bunch of holes and little crevices that you can peek through, and if you've got a very busy background and a lot of different colors going on, it's going to show through the bike and it can clash with the bike, and it's just kind of not that pleasing to the eye. Whereas if you have a very clean and simple background, the motorcycle is going to look so much better and it's going to look like it actually belongs there. You also want to try and make sure the locations complement the bike in terms of color. For example, you're not going to shoot a green Kawasaki in a literal bush where everything is green around you, because the bike is going to kind of blend in. It works a lot better when you have big contrasting colors, and it's going to just make the bike stand out and pop a whole lot more. A good example is a red Ducati, shooting in an urban setting where you've got all just basically a bunch of different shades of gray. This bright saturated red is really going to pop and just make the bike look so much more appealing, and the photo is going to look so much better when you've got this nice big contrast between colors. And when it comes to shooting on location, try to be creative with motorcycles. I mean, there are a whole bunch of places that you can go. You could basically go on the sidewalk. Not that I'm condoning this, but I always say it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. So really try to bring motorcycles places you wouldn't really think of, because they're small, they're nimble, and you can push them, with your own feet, so you don't have to turn on the engine and make a bunch of noise. So you can kind of get away with sneaking around. So tip number 3 is posing the bike. Something that really frustrates me or infuriates me is when people take photos of motorcycles on the leaning side. So the side that the kickstand is on, and you have this motorcycle kind of leaning and coming towards the camera, and it's a very awkward and ugly angle. If you're taking a whole shot of the motorcycle, really only take it from the exhaust side or the side that the kickstand is not on. That way you've got the face side that's kind of facing up. And even further, I would recommend getting some kind of block, or even bringing a kickstand with you if you can. If you're shooting someone's bike, you can bring it in your car or whatever, to try and get the bike vertical, because that's when the motorcycles look the best and sexiest. If you don't have a rider and it's leaning, it's not that sexy. But if you've got the motorcycle up vertically, on a stand, or you have a rider keeping it up straight, it's going to look so much better. Motorcycles are just meant to be stood up straight. They're not that symmetrical, so having that nice symmetry of at least it being straight and upright is really instantly going to elevate your photos. And another thing when it comes to shooting is making sure that the wheel is actually pointing in the right direction. What I mean by that is, if you're doing a basically front-on vertical shot, someone's on the bike, make sure the handlebars and the wheel's actually straight. Sometimes people like to leave it a little bit to the left and right, and you'd be surprised how big of a difference a small amount of degree can change. As well, if you're leaning or the motorcycle is at an angle, make sure that the wheel is actually pointing towards the camera, and play around with moving the handlebar polish a little bit to get a perfect shot and composition, because really sometimes people, actually a lot of people kind of just forget about it. That's kind of more of an afterthought. You don't really think about, oh, you know, positioning the handlebars and the front wheel so that it's actually facing the camera at a nice angle. Sometimes people give it a little bit too much, sometimes people don't turn it enough. Even I'm guilty of this. I do it sometimes where I forget about the front wheel. You know, you're too focused on the whole bike and, you know, that background and the rider and all that stuff. Try to keep that in mind next time you go out to take some photos. Try to avoid shooting motorcycles at eye level. This is the biggest mistake. I see people go up and they want to take photos of their bike and they just go like this, boop, done, right? We are taller than bikes, and usually shooting a motorcycle from, you know, eye level is not that pleasing because it's not enough height to get a full picture of the bike. You either want to go really high or you want to go slightly below the handlebars. That's where I find you get the best angles, just a little bit below the handlebars pointing up, because it's going to really accentuate the size and shape of a motorcycle, and it's going to make it look really, really aggressive. So that's my favorite angle. You know, just go a little bit below the handlebars, shoot up, typically on a wider lens, and it's going to really make the motorcycle, you know, just exude so much energy. You also want to experiment with different positions of the bike. Bikes are very easy to just kind of get off the kickstand, move around a little bit, so always do that. Experiment, you know, they're easy to move around. Try a whole bunch of different settings or different positions within your location, because you're going to get a huge variety of photos. And as well, this helps in ensuring that you can, you know, capture all the details of the bike, get close-up shots of the exhaust, the handlebars, you know, the speedo, the keys, you know, the mirrors, the fairings, everything. Go all out and take as many different photos in as many different positions with different lighting, because it's going to make such a huge difference when it comes to, you know, the photo shoot as a whole and not just the individual photos. Tip number 4 is your subject. If you've got a rider on the motorcycle, try and color match the outfit or his gear to the motorcycle. It's going to look so much better. Or try to go for a contrast. For example, white motorcycle with a full blacked out rider looks really, really cool. And the same could be said if you got a white motorcycle with a full white on gear set. It looks really, really awesome. Same thing goes with clothes. You know, for example, red motorcycle, red hoodie, black pants. Try and color match and try to get nice color theory going, and it's going to make your photos look so much better. For example, recently I shot some photos with my friend Matthias and his red Ducati. He had black gear with red accents, and it just looks really, really good, and it really helps accentuate the vibe or aesthetic we're going for, where this is kind of a little bit more dark and gritty, whereas if he was wearing all red, it would be a little bit more bright and flamboyant. So really try to get your rider to color match the motorcycle or do some nice contrast. You know, if they don't have colored gear, then try to get them to just put on a jacket or like a hoodie or something like that that color matches the motorcycle, because it's really going to make a huge difference. Not only should you clean your bike, you should also clean your helmet and gear. You know, it's really funny when you see a really nice photo and you zoom in and you see just bugs all over the visor and helmet. Clean your stuff. You know, it only takes a few minutes to get some isopropyl alcohol and a rag. You can carry that with you and just wipe down the helmet and visor, because no one wants to have a super nice photo and then just see a bunch of streaks of dead bugs and bug guts all over your face. Details make everything, so make sure you're paying attention to that. And our 5th and final tip is to get one of these, and these are called CPL filters. But what is a CPL? So a CPL is a circular polarizing, I actually don't know what the L stands for. It probably stands for something important. I'll put it on screen right here for you to see. And what a CPL does is it cuts out on glare and reflection on kind of reflective surfaces, windows, glass, you know, motorcycle paint specifically. And if you remember in the first tip when I said about cleaning your motorcycle, paint is very, very reflective, right? And that's how it works. It reflects light and then you see the color of the paint. So naturally you get a lot of reflection and glare, especially if the glossy paint. So a CPL is going to help you to be able to kind of minimize the reflections, and it's going to make that color pop a little bit. You can get very cheap CPL filters. Some of these cost like, I don't know, I paid like $5 to $10 for these K&F ones. You get a little bit of color tinting, but it's really not that big of a deal, especially if you're shooting in RAW and you're doing photography. If you're doing video work, it's a little bit different. I would probably suggest going for a little bit more expensive CPL. That way you don't have to do any more color grading in post. But a CPL filter is absolutely a must in my opinion. Just get one. They're so cheap and they're going to really make your photos look good, because it's going to look like almost a commercial shoot where you don't have any reflections. Whereas if you look at most people or amateurs, you get a whole bunch of reflections in their photos and it doesn't look, you know, you can't see the paint of the car, you just see all the surroundings. you really want to focus and accentuate on the color and the paint of the motorcycle itself. So yeah, get a CPL and you'll thank me later. If you found this helpful at all, then please leave a like and subscribe. And if you have any motorcycle tips that I maybe missed and things that you do, then feel free to leave them down in the comment section below so other people can get more help improving their motorcycle photos. And I'll see you guys around.